Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you're in the world. Today we have a fascinating guest, a really fascinating guest. We're really privileged to have someone who has a really unique way of working, if you want to call it work. Lizzi Larbalestier, she's an NLP trainer, an MB trainer, has a master's in applied coaching, and she works at the beach. She does coaching at the beach. Lizzi, that's fascinating. Can you enlighten us on what you do at the beach? What a wonderful way to coach people.
Hi, Jimmy. Good to be invited to chat with you today.
Yeah, no, good to have you on board, yeah.
Yeah, so I basically escaped the corporate world, escaped the four walls of an office, having worked in the corporate world for ages. And I'm an environmental activist, and I'm also a qualified coach. So it was pretty obvious for me to put environmental psychology to practice and use the environment that provides such a useful backdrop for studying and being curious about what we're thinking and how our behavior patterns are helping us or not helping us. So I started my business back in 2009, and I take people outside their four walls, and we use the space outdoors to act as a backdrop for them exploring their patterns, habits, goals, aspirations, and what might be holding them back, and also what they desire in the world. So
yeah, that's really amazing stuff. And how did you come up with that concept? It's unique, it's fresh, it's innovative. I think it's wonderful. I think the beach, the coast is a wonderful place to be, definitely for many reasons, which I'm sure that we'll discuss throughout the program. How did you get to come up with the idea? What sort of took you to the idea of this innovation of taking people to really creating a wonderful environment?
So there's some converging paths, really. I know how I feel. I don't know how you feel when you go to the coast, but I know how I feel when I spend time in, on, and around water. I tend to be much more creative in my thinking. I tend to be much more coherent. So my stresses and my busyness within my mind gets resolved purely through having that space, because you've got a big sky, and having a big sky takes us into a much broader way of viewing the world and putting things into perspective. And I just noticed a lot of people were spending time going towards the coast. For me, it's the coast, but actually, as I discovered through some of the connections that I made over the last few years, water as a whole can be quite therapeutic. Just spending time, it might be lakes or rivers. And we maybe talk about something called 100 Days of Blue a bit later on. But I just noticed in myself that it was helpful to use the outdoors, full stop. And in the corporate world, we'd used a lot of green space. So we'd used forests and woodlands to do outdoor adventure type development centres for area managers where I was working. But for me, that blue space, there was something that was quite different about that in terms of how it made me feel. And because I liked being there as a coach, if you're in a good place yourself as a coach, it means you can hold space for people that much more effectively than if you're in a place where you feel confined and constricted. So for me, it's really important for me to express myself authentically as a coach, and therefore invite people into that space. So it's not going to be for everybody, but certainly if somebody's got a very busy, hectic schedule and they want to step outside that to explore, actually there might be more to life than how they're approaching things at the moment. It enables people to slow down. So it was more personal experience, and testing it and trying it and seeing and noticing some of the differences in terms of the ways that people approach their problem solving or solution finding, and gradually just modeling different techniques that seem to work with the environment. And then got excited about environmental psychology. And it seems to be, from an academic point of view, there's loads of research into green space over the last few years, and blue space is just catching up. So blue space is there's a lot more actual scientific evidence around the balance and the benefits of being around blue space. So it was a converging of paths and a step towards a more analog existence. So we're very reliant on the digital, and we spend a lot of time in very digital environments, which don't allow us to have attention restoration. We have this hard focus on computer screens day in, day out, or we're on our smart computers day in, day out, smartphones. And actually to be able to enable people the space and a little bit of slowing down to look around them and have a sense of, well, what is really important to you, rather than what seems to be just the next thing and the next. People work very much step to step, and they're not really thinking about actually their existence and their purpose for being, and actually therefore creating much more meaningful goals. So that's, for me, why I use that space.
Yeah, that's really interesting stuff, and certainly I feel your sentiments there. I feel so much creative. I spend a lot of time at the coast, beach. I spend a lot of time around lakes and walking rivers and green space too, and blue space as well. And I find my exact sentiments are, whenever I'm around nature, you feel so much more creative, more fresh, more invigorated. It's almost like an extension with your everyday trance. It's like going into trance state. You're going into a more receptive state of ideas, and those ideas then can build associations and new patterns of behavior. So I find it really useful to be able to affect behavioral change by going in nature, because it's almost like a natural way of going into trance, where you see a sunset, you see a sunrise, or just see a blue ocean, a river or a lake. It's really fascinating, and it's a great way to coach. And I'm surprised that more people don't utilize that. Maybe they are, maybe they're not. I don't know a great deal or too much about it, only as much as you've told me, and a little bit of research I've done here and there. I know from my own creativity, whenever I'm out there and I'm at one with nature, it's almost like you can rediscover your values. You can get alignment. You can get a sense of purpose, and also you get a sense of letting go. It's one of the most gentlest ways of utilizing a mindfulness state, where rather than sitting down and trying to force a mindfulness state, you're in at one. And yeah, for sure. And what sort of feedback do you get with people who maybe people who haven't given it the go before, they're new to it, they're used to being in them for those four walls, and you bring them out to a spacious environment? What sort of feedback do you get from people who first experience the experience?
Quite often, that wasn't what I expected. So it's quite often comes out, and that we worked a lot deeper. So I sometimes get people who think they're going to keep it quite transactional and quite surface level, the discussion. And I think you used the term "at one" because we have that greater sense of connection, and you're just feeling part of something much, much bigger. It connects us with our heart. It connects us with a sense of compassion and connection for the planet, which is great from my perspective as an environmental activist. It's important that we feel that there's a sense of guardianship for more than just ourselves. We need to be aware of the footprints that we leave behind, quite literally in the sand. But that wasn't what I expected. It was the opportunity to slow down. I think a lot of people, the getting out on the beach, what happens I now understand. I didn't really understand some of the science behind what I was doing, but now looking into it a lot more deeply, when our breath changes, we get much more balanced in terms of our autonomic nervous system. So rather than, like you say, this manufactured mindfulness state, actually just stepping into an awe-inspiring environment where you have the scenery takes your breath away, your breath changes, and actually that enables them to slow down, but also be able to explore their thoughts and their patterns from a place of coherence. So they're not in fight, flight, anxiety, or they're not actually completely lethargic. They're awake and alert and inspired and engaged. And I think that's the feedback that I get. I think, and a lot of the feedback around the research around awe, gratitude and awe, suggests that when we experience awe from a scenic perspective, or just inspiring situations that we find ourselves within, there's evidence to prove that then leads to pro-social behavior. And that, for me, in terms of the systemic impact of coaching, is huge. It's huge, and that might not just be about saving the environment. That might be about the people really considering what the impact of their decisions is on the people around them. So I get feedback that was surprising. That was an opportunity to really consider much more systemically what's important to me. So people get much more of a ontological shift in terms of their sense of who they are, and actually a desire to be a little bit more authentic. Because we strip away cynicism. So if you can get inspired by something, you can have awe on a grand scale. You can look at an ocean and it can be awe-inspiring, or you could look at a handful of grains of sand and be awe-inspired by quite how many colours you see within what was once a great big rock and is now tiny bits of sand. So it's a real perspective shift, and a lot more than just let's take a walk outside. There's a lot that the environment has to offer in terms of the metaphors that naturally get created when you're in that space, breath changing. So it actually impacts on us physiologically, psychologically. There's a cognitive shift in terms of our ability to access creativity, and there's a social impact within that as well.
Yeah,
so it's a really broad spectrum.
That's a really good point. I was sort of going to go there. You've read my mind there, the social impact. And I think it's all good and well. I think it's phenomenal to be able to go out and generate new ideas. We live in a world where we all need to make a living, and we to survive, we need to pay bills and pay for shopping and so on and so forth. It's going to be very difficult at this stage of the way things are in the world to go back to how we might have been thousands of years ago. From a trial perspective, modern technology is useful, it's great, I embrace it. The only thing I would say for me, it's also the social perspective. When you see dolphins or you see an ocean and you see the beauty of nature, it almost takes you away from that perspective. You look at the big picture and you think, you know what, I'm stressing out over all these things, and they're not little things, they're big things to the people who are stressing out over them. But when you think about life in the form that we're in, you think, wow, this is it. It just stops in your tracks. And a few years ago, I was seeing some dolphins swimming in the ocean. I thought, this is it. This is real. The stuff around the work I do, and I take what I do really seriously, to a point that I don't take it too seriously, because life's too serious to take too serious. I think, you know what?
Love that.
This is real world. It's real life. And I think that I would think it's a shame in a way. And I know you've work to do and people want to generate ideas and do better from a corporate perspective, but also social perspective. Just going away and sometimes even putting the notepad away and thinking, you know what? I'm going to leave the ideas. And in my experience, when I've been on certain retreats, Lizzie, I found that sometimes people are trying to force the issue, they're trying to force new ideas, and I think, you know what, it's almost like you're missing the point. You're in nature, enjoy it. The ideas will come, they don't come along, and just enjoy it. But I can imagine from a coaching point of view, of course, people are there to get new ideas, but also socially, that's a great point. I think that's so important from a social perspective to get back to what really matters in the world.
I think that is a really good point, because the coast, you've got two angles on it. You've got one which is the fall in love with it, and then you'll look after it. So that's one perspective, and I think that's the perspective that I and a group of people that I've colleagues and peers that I've connected with, we have that a lot of that emphasis around. Actually, if you fall in love with the planet, you're more likely to protect it. It's a very towards orientated approach. And at the same time, it's great that you have both ends of the continuum, because for me, I go out on the coast and it's a very, very clear reflection of our ecology. So there's a really clear reflection of how well are we doing as a human race, because you can go to one end of our beach and it can be clean and beautiful and inspirational, and you can go to the other end and you'll see a load of marine litter and very clear evidence of our footprint. And that is both socially, but also both environmentally, but also socially. So that sense of when we talk from an environmental activism point of view of there's no away, you can't throw something away because there is no away, and socially there's no away. So when we think about the words that we express, once they're out there, they're out there. In the behaviours that we exhibit towards one another, once you've behaved in a certain way, it's quite a lot of work if it's not an effective way that you've behaved, it's quite a lot of work to then retrieve that and resolve that experience. So it's a really good indicator of us being in a system, us being part of an ecosystem, and therefore a collective ecosystem where we're all a tribe. We're global citizens, and we are a tribe looking after the place that we live, really.
Yeah, and this is all we got. I mean, as we know at the moment, from what we know, from a cosmic point of view, this is it. We make a stand on this earth. Our power blue dot, as we want to call it, whatever we want to call it, really, when you think about it, in a big cosmic arena, we've got life, and there's no life in the way we know of yet anywhere that we can find. And I think that there's an obligation to preserve that and enhance that, I think, for sure. And I think people, from what I can see, most people, 99.9% of people have their heart in the right place, and they mean well, and they want to do well. I think that the world we live in sometimes, Lizzie, doesn't lend itself well. I'm all for competition for evolution. I'm all for competition to evolve. And from a point of view of sport and enjoyment, but I'm also for uniting and being one, and realize, you know what, this is it, we make a stand, and this is our planet. We know one thing's for sure, at least we're not going to be around, or the planet won't be around forever. Let's look after what we've got, but also we can explore other ways to create life form in other areas and learn lessons. And I think that from an evolutionary perspective, I think sometimes, certainly in my experience, when I talk to people about certain things like that, it's almost like I'm coming from a different planet myself, really. But the reality is that our delusional existence, that we're so important in some way, or the corporate indoctrination that we sort of somehow seem to think that we are more important than this miracle creation of a planet, almost defies logic, really. You think, well, it's an obligation, I think, to leave the place a better place than we arrived. And I think the work you do is great, because we do need a balance. We need a balance between working and finding our place in society, but we also need to make sure that we encourage in any way we can. Now, there's going to be other people who have one agenda or the other, and some people will say this doesn't work this way, or things work in one way, and climate change, and everyone's got a variable opinion. But we've got to give ourselves the best chance to make the world. And like you said, when I see stuff like, you know, litter on a beach and around the lake, and that's education. I think people, if they learn early, they realise, value what we have. It really surprises me. And going back to earlier about the people, our values and how we align ourselves to their values, I think that some values that we have around the earth and the planet, if we start educating people young and early, they might appreciate the greatest gift that anyone can ever wish for, life, and to go on an ocean. It's free. It doesn't cost anything to go out there, and it's a phenomenon, really.
I think, and I love that. I love because there's loads that you said there. There's loads. There's the whole idea of us being collective and collective health and well-being, if you like. You also talked about that really cause and effect. It's around really understanding cause and effect and the impact of our decisions. And so whether I'm business coaching or whether I'm coaching around somebody finding new direction in their life, it's thinking that in a very circular perspective, in terms of you might be the start and the end of that. You're part of a system. And then you also said about play. You said about the dolphins, you know, like you saying your quote, "Life's too serious to take seriously." You know, it's being playful. The beach allows you to be way more playful. So, yeah, so the decisions it's adding gravity to your decisions, but also lightening up a little bit, because through lightening up, you're more likely to find wiser choices. Trying to come up with a really wise choice when you're really serious is probably not the best bodily place to come up with wisdom. Whereas actually, when you lighten up a little bit and sense being part of something bigger, chances are the decisions you make will be better ones anyway. And we have a lot of play. We really have a lot of play.
Yeah, and I find it really interesting. And I think that for me, Lizzie, our primordial nature as human beings, from an evolution point of view, if one believes in evolution, it's their core. But from the point of view is if we sort of look at evolution, how we evolved as a species, I think that we bring this sort of primordial nature in the world we live in today. And we may have evolved. You know, we've got these, and we can do this, and we can do a lot of things that we couldn't do years ago, like flying in planes, and we've got great creators and innovators, and I'm thankful for it. I really am. I'm really appreciating the technology. I think it's a useful thing, and we can chat across the other side of the country. It's great for that. But from the point of view of primordial nature, sometimes I find that in a corporate environment, you see it where, and you only got to watch these programs that you see on TV where people are put against each other, and it's almost like survival. If you don't do this, you can't get that. And I don't want to name the programs, but people are familiar with them. And you know what? They're kind of put against each other. And it's almost like scarcity. I'm the one. I'm going to prove myself. I'm going to be the best salesperson. I think, you know what? There's enough for everybody.
Yeah.
We can all live well. If I suffer, you suffer, I suffer. And one day it might be you, one day it might be me. And I think from that point of view, I think that evolutionary, I think it's a challenge to bring people to a place where they realize, you know what, we're collective. We're all one, really. If one person suffers one way, someone else will suffer as well. And I think that peace, compassion, love, kindness, you can have that in a corporate environment. It doesn't have to be the ladder, and I'm going to step everybody else. You can be a
I
nice
love that. I love that you, like you say, we're collective, and we're collective as a tribe, or however you choose to describe that. And also as individuals, we have our own eclectic mix that makes us us. So that whole abundance mentality, absolutely, we all have our individual mix that makes us very different from each other, but also we have that sameness within, in terms of the fact that we're all sharing space. So and the whole idea of non-duality, I teach yoga as well, so that's one of my pieces in my mix, if you like. And that idea of non-duality came from, for me, an understanding of you black and white have to both exist in order to be able to notice the shades of grey, if you like. So so you have to have ups and downs, and you have to have scarcity and abundance, but actually understanding that we all influence each other is really important. It's really important for collective health.
Of course, and you think from the...
If I'm grasping, if I go out into the world and I have a grasping mentality, where am I grasping from? It comes from somewhere else. So therefore, there's potentially a negative impact on somebody else. There is, we have an amazing planet, and if we look after it, and if we look after our oceans, we have enough air to breathe. That's quite important for me, on the agenda of ocean health. We all, even if you don't ever go in the ocean, you like to breathe, don't you? And where do you think that oxygen comes from? So that's quite an important thing.
Very much so. And I think that, certainly some great points there. And I think from the point of view of generating creativity, well-being, being in a better place. If you're in a better place on a personal level, you're going to be in a better place in work as well. So it's encouraging people to go to a place of creativity, a place where they can realign themselves, get in touch with what really matters in the world, what really matters, the big picture. When we look at things and we look at many people, Lizzie, define themselves by what they do. We live in a world where people's definition of self is what they do professionally. And you start to realize, as you sort of make your journey in this world, you think, you know what I do is an extension of me. It's not who I am. Who I am is different. And I think it's getting people to strip away from that. Now, people, I find in certain situations, are uncomfortable doing that because it's almost like trauma for them, because they've been this director of the company, they've been this lawyer, they've been this citizen, they've been this label they've given themselves for many, many years. And that's undermining people. But the reality is that we're all equally as worth as each other. And really, the true reflection of any human being is their sense of self, who they are as a human being, how they treat people, how they go about doing their daily business. And I think that there are great people across all walks of life, for me, for sure. But I think that by going away and taking yourself away from the existence people have in this world they create for themselves, this fabricated world, they start to realizing, when they see a waterfall, when they see nature work in synchronicity, the power of nature, where literally the world that we created for ourselves has a little more significance out there in nature. And I think by doing that, we come back a better person.
And fluid in that sense of who we are. So we come back a better person, but we also then don't become fixed in who we are in the moment. So accessing that fluidity of self as something that is completely evolving. So that sense of, just because you had this dysfunctional pattern or this dysfunctional label and sense of identity and who you were, if you're grasping onto that because there's fear of, well, if I let go of that, who am I? We actually, if we understand that we're fluid, if we understand that we are analog, our existence is analog, and we are continually evolving, whether you go down the neuroscience route of the fact that our brains are continually forming and pruning back, or whether you go more from a spiritual esoteric model in terms of that, considering ourselves, as this essence of consciousness, if you like. When we become more fluid, we then recognize that actually we can continually evolve, continually develop ourselves. And I think looking out, you look out at an ocean, if you have become so fixed in your day-to-day existence and so ingrained in just existing rather than truly living, if you can't look out at an ocean and be inspired, then that's a concern in terms of are you alive and really present and in the moment. But actually, some people genuinely turn up at the beach and they're existing day to day in such routine. But actually, when you ask about what's meaningful in their lives, or when were they last inspired, Or when did they last laugh so hard that their sides felt like they were going to split and really feel alive? For a lot of people, that's missing. They've lost that sense of awe. And I think look at the waves. There is psychology, there's environmental psychology around that backs up that when you look at a moving wave, there is enough variety in it and enough fascination in it that you go into a slight, you said, trance state. You actually go into a different mode of being present that actually for a moment frees you up, changes your breath, changes your physiology, and suddenly you can ask the question, well, who am I beyond the labels that I have attributed to myself? And somebody turns up wanting some very transactional business coaching. Yes, we can do that, but it tends to not remain at that level when you're in an environment that's inspiring. Tend to ask different questions emerge.
Very much so. And it's creating an experience for somebody. And we know in sport that a book will take you so far. Learning how to do something will take you so far. At some point, you're going to have to go out there and create an experience. And the more experiences you create for yourself, the better you become as a performer. No one became a professional footballer by just reading a book. Now, books are useful to a point. They'll take you so far. No one won a tennis tournament. No one won a rugby tournament. No one became a surfer by just reading a book. Where what we need to do at some point is go out and experience it. We're going to have to fall down and get back up again. And I think creating an experience for somebody from a business perspective, no one built an empire. I could never imagine a Da Vinci doing a SMART goal or Stephen Jobs. I didn't even know iPhone before my time. But I couldn't imagine him sitting there doing S is for specific, and I'm not undermining it. It has its place. But get out there and just live it and have an experience. I think by doing that, you have an idea or loads of ideas. And it's when you're in that receptive state, that's when you generate ideas. And people know that because we all experience everyday trance. We read books, when we listen to music, when we do many things in life. And that could even be the other side. We read a paper, watch the news, we go into a state of fury and anger. That's trance in itself, maybe not resourceful state, unless you take positive action from that. But the thing is, I think when you go to nature, it's about the moment of awe. You're going into a state of awareness, which you could make a point for being a start of hypnotic induction. Thereafter, you get a more receptive state, a more creative state, a more metaphorical, right brain creative state where you start generating ideas, thinking differently, see the world differently.
It's about trajectory. So it's about accessing a way of acknowledging the wisdom within you, so that your moment-to-moment decisions are as wise as they can be, and they're connected. So you've experienced what it's like to feel connected and feel part of something bigger, so that actually then moment-to-moment your choices are wiser, rather than absolutely you can do a SMART goal, you can do a well-formed outcome, and there will be well-formed outcomes along your journey towards whatever it is that you want to achieve. But actually, if your well-formed outcome was, I want to make the world a better place because I'm in it, as in I want to be compassionate and courageous and creative and help people express themselves fully and have positive social impact and a positive environmental impact, and that's a pretty good goal. And if moment to moment that's part of the way that you express yourself into the world, that's possibly could be more helpful, and and it's something that's factored into the decisions that you make moment to moment. It's likely to be you're likely to be more authentic moment to moment, rather than have moments where you're absolutely on course and then moments where your behaviors are nowhere near aligned to the values that you profess to have.
And the best way to achieve anything is to do it in the now. And the best way to write any goal, the best way to solve any issue in the past is to bring it to the now. The best way to move forward to where you want to go is take the steps now. And I think that's really important. And I'm all for using structured methods. I think didactic methods have their place as well. I think everyone's got their place. I wouldn't dismiss anything, but I'd also think that at some point it's that vision, that big picture, is saying, I'm going to go out there and just cut loose. It's like we see animals where they belong in the wild. They're different to what they are when they're caged, and they don't. In my opinion, I speak in my opinion now, Lizzie. I don't think they belong to be caged and suppressed. They should be running wild where they belong. It's their territory. We don't have any right to put them in positions where. I think one of the saddest things I've seen in my experience was to see animals living in a way that is not natural to them. Literally lobotomized, tigers lobotomized for people to go up and stroke them, and that's fair enough. And I've been there, I've seen them, and I almost at one point on my travels in the Far East had a tear in my eye when I saw elephants being beaten. So people could ride on the back of them, and I had a moment where I just jumped straight off and thought, I can't do this. This is ridiculous. This elephant has been conditioned response to do that. It's not its natural state. And you see tigers who are literally lobotomized. And I think as human beings, we almost follow a similar pattern where we just become conditioned to the alarm goes off and lunchtime we've got to be here, and this we've got to be here, and I think we have a structure in the world. I think it's important at the point we are in the moment, but I think also to go out and run wild, like you see a tiger in the jungle, or you see a lion, or to just run wild and cut loose and really come up with ideas and really be at one with the universe, and just go out there and go for it and get a sense of limitless possibilities and see what we can come back with ideas.
And you do, and absolutely like you say, you use structure where structure is useful. So there's always a so what now what. There's always a we've done some really creative stuff, and so what's going to happen as a result of that in terms of taking that forwards and out into the what difference will that make out into the world, so that it becomes more than an experience that just somebody goes away and says, well, that was great. But likewise, that ability, that is about connection. It's about knowing that what you do in the now influences the future, and that when you say it's the best time to influence, it's the only time, isn't it? We only have this moment to influence the future. So and I like the idea of lobotomize. There's a lot of businesses that people are walking around with this very, very conditioned ways of experiencing the world, and they almost have a different version of themselves that they take to work than their real self. And you think, wow, you're at work a lot of the time. So if you're going to spend the majority of your career in this vaguely lobotomized state, that's potentially going to spill out into patterns of behavior in your wider life and your wider circles. And what a shame if you got to the end of your however long you live and you look back and think, I kind of wish that I'd been a bit more me, and I kind of wish I'd even asked the question, what is that? Who is the me that I'm searching for?
Precisely, exactly. And when you and I think there's some great people in the business world, some great minds, and I've been very fortunate over the years to meet some really great people in the business world. The flip side of that also, you think that the environment sometimes produces people who are backbiting and fighting and arguing about things and tearing people down, and you think, you know what, is there really a point in all of that? And I think that encouraging people is probably a better thing to do, and people, and I think that's that fear, Lizzi, that is generated amongst people thinking there's not enough for everybody. If I don't have that, and then if they have that, they take away from me, and the cake is there. We can all have a slice of the pie. It's okay. We can all work together. And I think that by doing the stuff that you do, it's a great way for people to have those realizations that we can create a world where there is, because really, ultimately, in the end, we don't have peace and harmony and compassion. What else have we got, really? Do we really?
And we don't own anything. And it's just a reminder that we don't own anything. So we don't. Exactly. You might buy your house, or you might buy something and think that you own it, but you are a guardian of it at best for the period of time that you're here. So I think using the environment, whether it's, obviously I advocate the ocean or water, but if it's using the environment that the environment provides, it's a very, very good leveler. Because I use the term, you look at the Atlantic Ocean, you are not bigger than it, you're not more special than it, you're not grander, you're not more beautiful, you don't have the eclectic mix that there is within that ecosystem. Within your system, you might have a lot, but actually there's no status involved when it comes to comparing yourself to something like the Atlantic Ocean. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous to even try to compete with it. So So
Precisely.
actually,
It's
we all
humbling.
hold a space, and hopefully, from a coaching point of view, all of us as coaches are encouraging people to leave positive footprints, leave footprints that do encourage people, that do allow somebody else to shine, rather than be so focused on shining yourself that you're putting somebody else in a shadow.
No, very much so. And tell us about the 100 Days of Blue.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really interested.
So my path crossed with I started my business in 2009, and I think Jay, my friend Jay, started writing his book probably a bit before that. My path crossed with a guy called Jay Nichols in 2014, and he was launching his book Blue Mind, and I read this book, and I thought, he's written my book. He's written a book all about blue space, and it's got loads of research around environmental psychology, and he loves water. I mean, it's a brilliant book. So that's absolutely advocate anybody that loves the ocean, but actually anybody that loves life, to go out and read this book. But so my path crossed with Jay, and we have a collection of artists, educators, academics, coaches, business people, huge mix, poets. And we all come together once a year for a thing called Blue Mind Summit, where we explore the current research, current ideas around how can we encourage people to be better connected with water, and really understand the health benefits of being in, on and around water. So, and again, that is social, cognitive, emotional, physiological, all the different benefits there. So one of the ways that we do that is we have 100 Days of Blue, and 100 Days of Blue is basically spending 100 days in, on, under, near water, so that we can encourage people to do that, so that they connect with actually how does that make you feel when you actively make a choice to do that. So that could be going to a flotation tank, because there's loads of research around how they're helpful for your health in terms of anxiety resolution, that type of thing. It might be going to a local pool, so it doesn't have to even be natural water. It could be drinking more water. So really connecting with water as a health resource on the planet. Or it could be going out in the ocean. It could be going and just spending some time by a riverside, contemplating life, the universe, doing a bit of yoga, possibly by a lake. So we do that for 100 days in a row, and we encourage everybody through social media, through various different avenues, through networks that we have, to do that, everybody that we know, to spread the word of connecting with water. And it's around spreading an attitude of gratitude for the planet, really, because we live on this blue planet, and it's 70% water, this planet, and we forget how reliant we are on the water that exists around us. So, and a friend of mine lives out in Cape Town, and she's, at the moment we're having conversations around, she's saying pray for rain, because they have no rain, they're really suffering in terms of lack of water, whereas a lot of us in our part of the world really take that for granted. We think, well, how much water do you waste in a day? It's crazy. So 100 Days of Blue is about celebrating water, about celebrating all the benefits of water, and actually some of the things that water gives us. So it gives us opportunity for things like solitude, which is great, that ability to have space to think but still feel connected. It enables us play, it enables us creativity, it enables us all, like awe, gratitude, all the different qualities that we get from water. So it's a social media, but also a people-to-people network. So it's actually day one yesterday. So I've got a load of people in the sea who, some of them go in the sea regularly, some of them live in Cornwall. I live in Cornwall and hadn't been in the sea for ages. So it's about encouraging us to love our planet, because actually, whether you are business coaching, and it's quite a transaction, it appears quite transactional. Every single thing we do impacts upon the planet. So and people love it. People at the end, throughout 100 Days of Blue, they get inspired. They get inspired to feel more connected with the planet, feel more connected with shared experiences. So if you share getting in the ocean with a group of people, so day 100, usually a lot of business people from Cornwall come in the sea, and you think that's quite an unusual thing to do as a business networking exercise, but actually the level of connection that you have with people when you spend time in water or near water, there's something different in the quality of connection that you have in terms of sense of shared space on the planet. So yes, 100 Days of Blue this year started 29th of May. So it goes through started Labour Day, and it goes through for 100 days. And we encourage anybody that is an ocean advocate or part of the Blue Mind Collective, encourages people to do that. And it fits very well from my perspective, from a coaching point of view, because obviously that's the main place that I take my coaching clients, is out on the beach. So
you know, for sure, and Cornwall's certainly a beautiful place and a beautiful part of the world. And certainly where I live, there's a lake, and every day when I'm around, I'll go for a walk, and it's 3 or 4 miles, and it's a great place to walk around. And sometimes I'll take clients, corporate clients even, will go for a walk and have a chat about things and stuff. And it's a great way to connect with nature and the greenery and the water, and to be at one with the world and talk about things and bounce ideas, and we generate ideas and then get them out there. And it might be one idea of 100 ideas, and that's the one idea that we have and work towards and move forward. And it's one way to interrupt a pattern of behavior as well and generate a new pattern of behavior. It's the one way to come up with just general creativity. And certainly when I do stuff myself, like writing, and I write articles and books and so on and so forth, I just get out there and just think, okay, let me just generate ideas. And sometimes just purely just from the point of view of social and health, just getting out there and just letting go and surrendering. And what you said earlier about when we sort of compare ourselves to the Atlantic, you think, you know what, gee, this really is a bigger picture, so to speak. So I think it's wonderful. And certainly some parts of the world, as you know, there's in Thailand, I stand corrected, I think it's called Songkran, I'm not sure, but in April they have a big festival because they have rain, the rainy season, and it means the rainy season means crops and so on and so forth. And it's such a great festival. And I was there a few years ago when they had the festival, and it's just amazing. People throwing buckets of water at each other. I don't know if health and safety in the UK would allow it to throw water or buckets of water at people riding past in motorbikes and so on and so forth. But it's so eventful, and it really works, and it makes you realise just how for granted we take it sometimes, how fortunate we are to have a balanced environment. We have wonderful nature, and we have the ability to have water and have water for drinking. And we know in certain parts of the world people don't have that privilege, and I think it's really important that we make that. It shouldn't really be a privilege. We should all be entitled. There's enough water out there, the 70% planet, and everyone should be able to have fresh water anywhere in the world.
I think so. I think it's a basic human right, and it's shocking that we're at this phase of evolution that some places they don't have access to clean drinking water. And for me, I mean, it rained a couple of days ago. It's coming into summer here, and it rained a couple of days ago, and I was like, oh, it's raining, and I thought, what am I doing? My friend in South Africa would really kill for this, and I'm kind of, there's the rain. And so we should celebrate the rain. We should celebrate having weather, for having all sorts of weather and that variety of environmental situations that we find ourselves within. So it's 100 Days of Blue. It's a celebration of water, and it's a celebration of a shared collective ownership of the planet. So whilst it comes from the Blue Mind Collective, there's that, when you talk about this sense of abundance mentality, one thing that Wallace J. Nichols is, he doesn't feel that he owns 100 Days of Blue. We all own 100 Days of Blue. It's his concept and his idea, but he wants everybody to, I want people to fall hopelessly in love with this planet, because then we feel that we have some impact on it. So and that weaves through every single bit of coaching, any bit of coaching that I do, even if it is about doing a profit and loss schedule with somebody. But what is profit and loss, and how does that impact more widely than you're about to make a decision that ecologically possibly isn't helpful? Maybe worth asking those sorts of questions.
No, of course, for sure. And I think that if everybody joined in and fell in love with the planet, had that love and gratitude of the planet, the world will be a different place. And you've got to start somewhere. And like a pebble in the pond or whatever, really can have a ripple effect. It starts with one person, one becomes 2, 3, 5, 20, 100, maybe in time. It'll be a universal thing where people will be so in love with the planet, and they'll realize that actually, you know what, we've got the obligation to preserve it and look after it whilst we inhibit it and make it a better place for the next generation who come on board. And also in doing that, at some point we explore other planets and the possibility. That's the only way.
It's a free resource, isn't it? It's free. It's, at the end of the day, if somebody comes to me and they want to think creatively, it's free to go outside and spend time in that space. And if it helps them to think more creatively about whatever their agenda is, because they probably haven't come to me with some massive environmental agenda.
Yes.
They probably have come to me with something that's very specific to them. But the environment facilitates them to be able to think more creatively.
Yes.
So 100 Days of Blue is just about saying thank you back to the environment. It's about saying that the environment's offered that free of charge to you. Just try and look after that space, because it's a useful space. It's a useful space. It is our home, after all.
Very much so. And whatever their agenda is, they'll have no agenda if we carry on as a human species the way we are going at the moment. Collectively, and the things that are going on in the world, there's a lot of beauty and great people, yet ultimately in the end there are many things that are going on that aren't great, and I think that the sooner we realize how important it is that we do come together and do make sure that we look after this planet, because whatever agenda anybody's got, they'll have no agenda if we don't have a planet to survive and live on and live this wondrous journey of life. And ultimately, in the end, we're going to go forward as a human species. We're going to have to investigate other planets too at some point, because the sun, it won't be around. It might not be for 1 billion years, but we know that at some point it'll do what the sun will do, and it would be in our best interest to start exploring new planets and seeing if there are. And we know that water is instrumental in life form, so it would make a lot of sense to me, whatever anybody's agenda is, to have certainly one eye on creativity, and we survive and things aren't perfect in the world, and they may never be perfect, but they are a lot of great things too. But going forward, how can we do things to preserve it? How can we do things to look after it? How can we do things to, like living in a home? It's amazing how people look after their home. They wouldn't go inside and create a complete mess. If they did, they'd tidy it at some point. That's our home. That's it. That's all we've got at the moment. Look after it. I certainly say, and in looking after, I think that we'll go to a better place ourselves. We'll live a better life.
And I don't have a claim to fame that that the most corporate person in the world will leave as a complete and utter hippie, but everybody that comes to the beach, I can pretty much say that everybody that comes to the beach and does some creative thinking and some planning and looking at their patterns at the beach in this environment, or around water, I can pretty much guarantee that what they do get is they get a greater sense of compassion, and they get a greater sense of connection. So wherever they start on the scale of structured and corporate, if you like, their sense of connectedness will shift. So they may not go away and be talking peace, love, happiness, and completely off the scale, but certainly they will start being a little bit more aware of the wider impact of the decisions that they make, and generally be a little bit more playful and less cynical.
No, very much so. And if you think about a good member of staff is someone who has gratitude for their customer, who has that love for the customer, realizing the customer's got options. We live in a very competitive world, and it filters through. And certainly the people who are at the very highest level in the corporation, attitude's contagious. Used to be saying, we used to say professional sport, attitude's contagious, yours worth catching. And basically it all comes from the top. And I think if you remember a staff who shows more compassion, more love, more gratitude, you've got a better environment to work in. What a great place to be in. If you want to be there, if you want to do well, ultimately it can be done. I think it's possible, and it will make the world a better place. But you are right, I certainly agree. Not everyone's going to be, we're all at different levels, or different, not one person better than somebody else, but we're all on different journeys anyway. But ultimately, if you go away and at least you think, you know what, there's a bigger picture here as well as, and I've got my own race to run, I've got my own life to lead, I'm going to do the best I can. But ultimately, what could be more important than creating a brighter future, a better vision for children, people who've got their own children, our own children, people who are teaching from that point of view, a better life for ourselves, for our friends, for our family. What could be better than creating a more compassionate environment, living in a greater world? And I think the better place we are mentally, the better we'll do in any area of life. And certainly when I still look at professional sport and still do now, I would encourage people to go to that place of compassion, love, and you can still be competitive. You can still enjoy the game. You can still walk up, when you walk over that white line and you're on the field, you compete with dignity, and you do the very best you can to get the result you want. When you go off there, then you can share a drink and have a chat and be friends. It's just purely on the basis that you enjoy it. You enjoy what you do, you're going to do great work. And I think it's fascinating what you're doing. I think that it all starts with 1,000-2,000 people. I certainly think that someone who experiences that will never be the same again. That's for sure, in a positive way. I think at the end of it, they may not be the corporate peace and love hippie, but they'll certainly go away with a different outlook and change perspective, change your world. I don't think they'll go back and be the same person they were again. And if nothing else, they'll realize that a lot of stuff we do sweat in life is, what's the point? We sweat.
Well, I do love your statement. Life is too serious to take seriously. It's great.
Yeah. Well, it is really, when you think about it, and you think about the big picture, and the time we've got, whatever anyone believes, this is it. We're just genetic form. There's only one of us. There'll only ever be one of us. So there only has been, and our time is minimal. Look at the ocean, and you look at the Atlantic Ocean. I would challenge anyone to look at the Atlantic Ocean and take a look at self. We're not even a drop in the ocean. And when you look at time as we know it, based on the way we use time in the modern world, based on industrial revolution, we're just not even a drop in the ocean. Our existence in this life form is just gone. And when you think about all the people fuss and fight over, and before you know it, the sand glass, the hourglass is gone.
And that's what I think. That's why we connected when we spoke together, because I think it's taken off all the airs and graces and just connect, connect and recognize that actually that we are part of a bigger system, rather than the facades and the games that we play and the fights that we have. So I think. And
human beings are the way they are, and I'd certainly get in situations where I get caught up in things sometimes myself. Every human being does, and I think ultimately in the end that I'm not suggesting we're going to be a completely peace and love and free society, type of society. I think sometimes it's good to have that passion. It means we care. If we didn't have any passion and didn't get upset about anything, it would mean we didn't care. So it's good having that, but I think it's also good to be able to detach yourself from that too and say, you know what, I'm going to leave the bat and ball there now. I'm going to sort of reconnect with nature and just live life and do some of the things that mean for me, getting that balance as well. I'm sort of conscious, we're coming towards the end of the interview. I'd like to, if you want to share your details, if people want to get in touch with anything you do a lot of great work around coaching and all the stuff you do, really. If anyone wants to get in touch with you, is there any way for them to get in touch to explore some of the content that you use?
Yeah, they can get in touch via the website. So my website's goingcoastal.blue. So that's my website, and my email is lizzie@goingcoastal.blue. And absolutely get in touch and explore the environmental psychology and how that might be useful for them as coaches, or them as therapists, or as individuals. So, and I said to you, currently writing a book that is around supporting coaches with using the environment within their practice. So yeah, and it sounds like you already do a lot of it already, that connecting with the outdoors and how that changes people's mind state. So yeah, absolutely love to hear from some people about that, you and I are going to stay connected anyway.
Well, yeah, definitely, for sure. I'll be looking forward to the book, and I'll certainly be reading it. It's always good to learn new ideas, and I think that we're never-ending lifelong learner. I think that it's always good to hear what other people have to say, and some of your experience across a broad range of areas and modalities, and you do really, really well. I think it's really important to share that in any way you can. I think that, and it takes one idea for anybody, really. One idea is all it takes, and for people who are stuck out there in business or anything in life, you just got to think it just takes one idea, and one idea can just really propel you forward in any area of life. That's the most important thing. And I think sometimes the more you try and force it, the more the resistance is there. Sometimes the part leads to resistance. Getting out and just let things flow.
And that's really watery language, isn't it? Making things flow. And if you try and swim and you try and force swimming, it doesn't work. There is a fluidity within it, and so it does take one of it. And huge gratitude for taking the time to explore and chat.
No, it's been wonderful. I really want to thank you for that, and I look forward to hearing more about what you do in due course.
You come to the beach. Come down to the beach and we'll explore.
Sure. I'll have the surfboard out there. I think at the Fishbowl Beach Surf Festival. You'll probably find me in a corner of Cornwall. Definitely, certainly at that point, I'll be exploring the beach amongst many other things. It's a fantastic place and part of the world. Love the place. It's phenomenal. Thanks again, Lizzi. I really appreciate your time. Thanks for coming on board.
Good to chat.
Awesome.
Cheers, Jimmy.
Bye-bye.
Bye for now. Bye.